Like he's usually working, dude. Like he's never standing still, always moving around.
I honestly, I've come
blessing.
to believe, isn't that like the key to happiness? Is to just keep doing things, not like regress
Never stop.
Never stop.
Or like melt down
Yes,
into
mama.
a position of boredom, or
Busy with the podcast.
And
because it's kind of it starts to take on these toxic traits, when you sit still. Water that sits still becomes stagnant.
Yeah.
And nobody wants stagnant water. People like a nice, clean, free flowing water. And
that
it's life is what you make it.
Yeah.
It's what you make of.
We can change whenever we want to start it, but what has like astounded me, dude, actually fucking blown my mind about the second season of Love, Death and Robots is its ability to look actual reality to the point where my brain goes, huh?
There were times where I was like, this is
the fourth one.
This is too real.
The one where it's
of the robot trying to kill him, right?
The snow in the desert. The one where it's really like in the desert and it's the mortal guy with the artificial intelligence and he gets his arm shot off and they can't drink water. That one, at some points, my brain could not tell it apart. I actually sat there and I went, wait, oh cool, they made a real one. Wait, that's real? That was my first reaction, dude. And then
this worries me because now they can replicate, fake videos of people.
Nah, bro, the possibilities.
Can you imagine someone hating you so much one day that they just render a video of you screwing the neighbor and they show it to your wife and your wife is like...
The thing is, we don't even have to think about the future. That is already something that's very much possible. Deep faking your face onto like someone else is very easy,
yeah,
dude. And it's a trip, dude, because we're going to have to basically develop AI that is better than AI at that. Yeah, it's going to be this weird loop.
Currently, we're sitting in that for cybersecurity. Tom was telling me this thing where basically what's happening is the way people code Trojans and data caching or keyloggers is they'll write an AI genetic algorithm to swap bits around in the code to make it undetectable for antiviruses.
Swap bits around, but maintain the functionality.
Yeah, maintain full functionality by replacing bits around, dude. It's ridiculous.
But then you have like DNA, basically.
It's pretty much DNA mutations. That's what a genetic algorithm is. I'll explain now, but a genetic algorithm is based exactly on mutations as in our genes. But the way, and then what were we talking about?
Like the antivirus.
The antivirus. Oh yeah, and then on the other side, hi, how are you?
Welcome back.
I'm back. I'm here. I'm comfy. We can do this now.
Do you want to turn a camera on, or
you have no obligation to?
No obligation whatsoever.
No, I'm okay for now.
Cool.
That sounds good to me.
Unless y'all need that, unless y'all would like that footage.
Nah, dude.
If anything,
you do what you feel like doing, man.
Exactly. Like you being comfortable is going to be what's indicative of a good conversation.
Yo.
Yeah, I don't want it to be distracting to me.
No worries.
I feel that. So, Uncle Becky, like I feel maybe you would do best in introducing yourself to the friends here.
Okay, so my name is AKA Uncle Becky. I am a live streamer on Reddit, and I've been doing it for quite a while now, and I live on a farm in Texas, and it's called Haywire Hill, and I try to bring a peaceful, tranquil broadcast to the world, and provide people a space to kind of decompress from the grindstone that is life and have a moment just to breathe,
That's amazing.
What exactly does your content constitute? So
So the idea, like the original, like and when you say that sentence to me, the image that pops up in my brain is extremely stabilized footage of wide open plains and hills and kind of an experience, right? An audio and visual experience that is going to provide you some kind of calmness, and that's just like the base of it. Other than that, it goes in many, many different directions based on what I'm doing. I might be taking a walk, I might be fishing, I might be building something, I might be just, in a comfy spot on the property, just talking to people, trying to uplift the world.
Wow, man. That's incredible. Well done. Like, to commit to it and actually do it is incredible.
Well, and it is incredible because I didn't realize how beneficial it would be for all parties involved. Here I am in the middle of nowhere, practically, compared to the rest of, probably most of the viewers that are watching.
Most of the civilized world.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because, a fun fact, not many people in my real geographical life here know anything about who Uncle Becky even is.
That's
as far as like people that I interact with here in this plane. But yet there's hundreds and there's millions,
thousands,
of people.
So to give you friends even more context, Uncle Becky was like technically the RPAN OG. Like he started with RPAN like in its infancy when it just became a thing. And Uncle Becky was also one of the first, I would say rather, individuals that went front page. And tell them about like that experience as well, Uncle Becky, how you basically got introduced to RPAN.
Okay. So from a small child, I wouldn't say a small child, but from a young man, I always kind of had a passion to take a stage, if you will. And I never knew what that stage was going to look like, but I knew that I liked to gain an emotion from people. So I aim through my artwork and my broadcast and my things like that, I aim to strike some sort of emotion from somebody to make them kind of break out of that autopilot. And I was gonna try and stream on Twitch, but Twitch was like, it just wasn't me. Like I didn't really. If there was any reason I was going to stream on Twitch, it was going to be the opposite of what Twitch was. To bring a light into that place that that the other people there didn't recognize. And then all of a sudden, and I was an avid Reddit user at the time, and all of a sudden Reddit makes a broadcast. I would say this is maybe right at the very, very beginning of COVID and the pandemic. This was probably around June, July of 2019. And there was buzz that there was going to be a broadcasting service on Reddit. And it instantly hit me of what that might look like. And it was kind of crazy to think about, like Reddit live broadcast. This is going to be bad. So anyways, I patiently waited, and they kept talking about it. Well, all of a sudden, they're going to give us the ability to broadcast on PAN on Wednesdays only with a 45-minute time slot. You have to have, I think they started out with 250 karma. It may have even been higher. It may have been like maybe 500 comment karma at first.
Oh, wow.
Because they wanted to kind of weed out the the accounts
Possible
that they didn't.
ones.
Sure, absolutely. So, anyways, it happened. like, I remember the first time I seen the video player open up and it was RPAN there. And it was the most surreal kind of experience to try to figure out, okay, well, how do I want to interact with this? Because I knew 100% without a doubt that I wanted to dedicate all of my resources to RPAN because I had been looking for a platform. I had been looking for a reason. I wanted to do games at first, but like I said, I live out here in the middle of nowhere, and I have a cell phone that has excellent LTE connection. That was it. That's all I had to work with. So I couldn't have some big fancy, broadcast set up with all the overlays and interactions and chat commands and, so I was trying to figure out, okay, how in the hell are you going to interact with this? And I stopped and looked around, and it hit me. The stream you see now was what I envisioned then, but it was in its very infancy. I had very, very little karma on my account, but I had an idea of what I wanted to do. And so when Reddit opened up the floodgates and stuff like, oh gosh, what were some of the early streams that were so awesome? So Noodle Man, I think, was in the very beginning.
Noodle Man is still doing good.
Yeah, Dora Diamond had Space Corgi. There was a lot of upvote interaction type streams. RPAN had freaking Zoom. You could zoom your camera. Yes.
Whoa.
Why did they take it away? Give it back, RPAN.
I don't know. I know a way to do it, but back then it was in the RPAN player, and it was like such an 8-bit overlay on this thing. And it was so legit, and it was like, modeled after the 70s public access TV network.
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, so long. I know that I'm rambling, but I feel that
no, not at all.
This is information that not a lot of people get to hear. Yeah.
This is the okay time to do that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I thought about this before I joined this call. As far as podcasts are concerned, I think a lot of, I don't know if you guys know who I am or have ever heard anything about me or what I do, but I feel that the podcasts are so beautiful because it gives you a different perspective of that creator's mind in a way, with outside questions and,
That's one of the biggest goals. Not purposes, but I'd say goals of these sort of interactions is we would like to, try and engage the different
get to know
opinions from different lives, from different people. We want to hear more. We want to learn more from everybody's different existences, because it's astounding to us how we are all humans, right? We're all of the same race, yet there is an astronomical amount of difference between us, and each and every one is so unfathomably valuable. And I personally hate people that discard other people's opinions or judge other people as stupid or put them in a box or anything like that. I want to hear more. I want to learn more. So this is incredibly special. So you go on ahead.
And well, and there's no place in this current age for that kind of thing. We are creating the age of everybody being accepted, right? It doesn't matter how you show up. It matters how you act when you show up.
Goodwill.
We're all humans, and we all deserve a certain level of respect and decency for one another, because this is a very, very fragile thing that we're living on here. I mean,
see, that's where I find it fascinating. You can be the smartest person on earth, the richest person on earth, the best athlete, the most beautiful anyone has ever seen. It don't matter to me if you treat other people like crap.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to me.
your
It flies
status is
out the
irrelevant.
window. It flies out the window. You can be all of those things that I mentioned previously. If you treat anybody, and I do mean anybody in any remote sense, as less than you, it doesn't matter.
Actually,
You're not welcome.
It's crazy to me that you say that as well, because I was talking to my mom about that in our dinner today as well, and I just basically said that if the best way to gauge someone's value versus other people is just to look how they treat people in services, be it a waiter, be it the person that like checks out their things, just watching that interaction between those two people can tell you so much about a person's overall imagination and understanding of humanity.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about that. And, and I noticed this when I started broadcasting, and it was at the beginning of the pandemic. And I had, my farm was in its infancy, right? So I inherited the mortgage to this farm from my father when he passed in 2016. And it was always his vision for one of us to, when I say us, I mean one of his children, to take on this this piece of land and turn it into something beautiful. So,
what exactly do you guys farm?
So we don't farm anything productively. We're doing this as almost a living experiment of this is a place of healing, and we're here with the animals, right? We haven't really curtailed it into a profitable farm. It's serving a purpose in other ways right now, and it will eventually grow into something profitable for the sustainability of the project. So kind of one of my mottos is success through sustainability. And I want to get to a point to where I'm creating most of my needs here on the land.
Nice.
And it's just out of a sheer idea. I had an opportunity, being that I had a chance to finish paying for this land, basically. And I took a hard look at what it had to offer. I have a background of rural living, so I kind of tapped into that passion. And what the broadcast showed me was that there's a lot of people in this world that don't even have a yard. They don't even have a blade of grass to call their own.
It's ridiculous sometimes.
And that is, to me, from my viewpoint, is just absolutely mind-boggling.
Devastating as well.
It's so devastating.
It's not even some people. It's most people.
It's most people.
And I don't know if that's just because it's a choice of where they choose to live their life, or if it's just circumstantial based on where they were, raised or just living situations.
I believe it's part of the culture of our society as well. Like, I mean, it's a choice to the extent that it's a choice to continue living. Some people move into the cities because that's where they can find work, and then the only place that you can afford is an apartment 12 floors up. So
yeah, I think
it's a choice, but it's also
I've lived that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I've lived. So before all of this, I've spent the last decade, a little more than a decade now, traveling around. I'm a industrial crane and rigging type of guy. So I've been trained to build, really large structures and power plants and all kinds of things like that. And so I traveled around for work for a long time, and I've lived in apartments. I've lived in several cities. I've lived on the West Coast in Mountain View in the Bay Area. So I come from a dumb southern hick town, right? And I left that seeking clarity based on what I was being exposed to as a child growing up. Was that really the way the world worked? And was that really the viewpoint shared from the population of the world? And I slowly started to realize that your viewpoint on the world is dictated a great deal based on your living and raising situation up until, you're about, 16, 17 years old. You
Sometimes
gain a lot of
older.
hardcore viewpoints, right?
Yeah, so in my regard, the kid I was before I came to varsity is very, very
Mm-hmm.
different than the kid that's been at varsity and grown up. Because, like you said, when you're a kid, you are only exposed to your parents and their ideas could be flawed based on their generation and so forth back.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And with the openness of information now, it's still a choice though. That's the one thing that I made the conscious choice that when I was going to come to varsity, I was going to experience the world fully so that I can understand
Mm-hmm.
where and how the world works. And through that
Well, good
mentality,
on you.
thank you. But yeah, through that mentality, you then learn that the world is way more complicated than you thought. Way more
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
complicated. And that's a
Yeah.
huge growth step.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And is there anybody else in the room that knows life before the internet and modern technology as we see today?
I sort of do, but from an incredibly young point of view. And I'm saying that we had a computer in the house. It was one of those dinky ones
Mm-hmm.
that goes, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
You've got
first ones,
mail.
those ancient ones, and it had the Windows icon and it had some mail, but it didn't have any Google on it really, or anything like
Sure.
that. So I remember those days, but not very well. And honestly, I grew up at the age of about 5, 6 years old, the old-fashioned way. Played with some
Mm-hmm.
action figures, went outside and dug a hole with a stick, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas these days, because so many kids are being raised in an enclosed apartment, the most nature that they usually see is when they get taken to a controlled park, that has walls and
Mm-hmm.
has
Mm-hmm.
controlled nature around it, and everything is safe and everything is, tailor made for you.
So
It-
can I just say what you're making me feel right now? If anything, this locking in of our current youth's consciousness, I feel maybe that is what's going to be the real push we need for psychedelics. Like that openness of the mind, that escape from that closed offness. Maybe that's what's going to be the driving factor of
Yeah.
humanity actually accepting that
It's
mainstream.
unfortunately inevitable. It will happen anyway. With this enclosing, it doesn't matter how much you make it illegal, how much you stigmatize it. It really doesn't matter. Humanity does things. It just, when it goes crazy and mad enough, it will break rules. It will cross boundaries. It'll
for
do
sure.
what is necessary for it to function in modern society.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, it seems the more we head towards urbanization, the more psychedelics or other substances that are far more harmful.
But
And
Like I feel the harmful substances are becoming so popular because instead of people realizing that there are ways of, treating their mental health, they try to escape it by completely numbing,
Yes.
that experience.
Yeah.
And
They
that's why these bad
run
drugs
from
are
it.
so rampant. It's the running from it. Like it's
yeah, but you also
instead of
have
running
to,
towards
you
it.
also have
Right?
to understand that these are the substances that are legal and that they're allowed to consume.
Absolutely.
If they don't even know where to get psychedelics, and on top of that, they're too worried and,
There's so much stigma around it. Maybe it will
even
kill me,
trying,
make me
no,
go
no, no, no,
crazy.
no, I've got schizophrenia and my family history. There's no way I'm gonna. No, I'm not gonna risk that. No, I have epilepsy. I don't know what I'm gonna experience if I take this substance. I'm not gonna do it. I'd rather smoke and kill myself with cancer.
Dude, Ed,
Can we have
That's-
an Uncle Becky story time?
yes,
Yes.
please.
Like Uncle Becky, like I have so many stories that I've heard from you that are like the gold of
Me-
gold, but I don't know how many of them I can share.
Please impart your wisdom, all of it.
Okay. All right. So I was born in 1984.
Okay.
I was
Going
born
all the way
in
back.
a very rural part of Texas, right? So my view to the outside world was nothing. It was what was ever on the 3 channels that we received on the television. That was it. That was the only concept I had of what was happening outside of my immediate household. And and we were very rural, so I grew up out in the woods, down at the river a lot, doing a lot of very wilderness type things from a very young age. My mentor, I guess you could call him, he was in his late 60s, and I was maybe 8. I was maybe 8 years old. I used to drive my father back from our camp, which was about 20, maybe 30 miles.
While you were 8?
Age of 9. 8 or 9 years old, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So much better.
We would put we would stack books up in the seat so that I would look old enough, because I was his designated driver, right?
Wow.
We would go down to the camp, and he would drink, and he would brag to his friends, and he would say stuff like, he's like, y'all fucked. He's like, I got my designated driver with me.
Yeah, it's fine. Becky can drive us.
Yes. And so, and it was a stick shift. It was a standard Toyota pickup. It was like a 1983 Toyota pickup, and the third gear was like way out to the right. And it was a chore just to drive this truck, much less know how to drive it. So,
less being 9 and driving.
Yes, and being 9. So this is the life. I'm just trying to kind of paint a small picture for you guys of the freedom and like kind of outlawish type life that, my father kind of exposed me to. And he was a great guy. You know what I mean? I'm not going to call it. Yeah. He wasn't like a criminal or something. He was a guy that thoroughly enjoyed his freedom of choice.
Yeah.
So
I respect that.
I also respect that.
And he would take me down to this deer camp, is what we called it. Basically, it was like, several hundred, acres. It was maybe like 1,500 acres. I don't know if that correlates to y'all, the way y'all look at land.
It's like you divide that in 2, and then you get hectares, basically.
Yeah. So this was my playground as a child, and I learned how to make minnow jars and catch minnows out in the river, and we would take those and put them on long lines and catch big catfish, and we would have catfish fries.
Wow.
And play poker and stuff like that as a child in this camp house that we built with our own hands down on the river.
It sounds like a dream.
Shit, like it was a dream childhood. Oh my gosh. Like, I didn't know what a city looked like at all. I'd never been to one until I was about 12. And so you made the comment, somebody made the comment a while ago about psychedelics and not knowing how to get them or not knowing what they were. And somehow those psychedelics found my feeble mind out in the middle of nowhere. And
my feeble mind. That was so
mushrooms.
You know what I mean? So feeble as in I didn't know you could do that shit. Like holy hell, what do you mean I can go over there but not leave here? And so my dad, being the kind of self-chosen laws that he followed, he would go to his friend's house a lot. And they all kind of sat around and we hung out like we're doing right now, but maybe sitting around an oak tree or something. And I remember them passing a joint around all the time. There was always a joint going around, and I would sit in the circle because at this time I was about 13 years old, I think, and I was listening to all these men, from this past generation, do their thing, live their life. And I would have to pass this joint to the next person, that was sitting beside me, the next adult, if you will. And one day I literally looked at it. I didn't pass it. I looked at it. I was about 13 years old, I think. And I smoked it. And my dad looked at me and said, "Boy, when did you start smoking that shit?" And I said, I said, right now? And he said, don't tell your mama. And, so yeah, that was my first experience smoking pot. And then that sparked the curiosity. I can say that in a way that pot was kind of like a gateway to
it usually is.
that altered what you were, and that's the mildest one, right? So he had a handicapped friend that was paralyzed, and I would go and get him, pot, because he couldn't drive. He couldn't really leave his house. He really couldn't leave the bed. So I would go and hang out with him and talk, and I would bring him pot so that, he was feeling okay. And I remember doing that up until he died. And he imparted a lot of wisdom on me through those conversations. And one day we were out in the yard and we asked him, we were like, hey, somebody told us about these mushrooms that you can go out there and you can eat them and you'll like see stuff. And he's like, yeah, what do you want to know about them? And we're like, where are they? How do we get them?
Where are they?
And he's like, all right. He's like, you think you're ready for all that, huh? I said, well, I don't know.
Nice.
I guess. So he says, go out in that pasture. And I'm looking at 100, 200 acres out there full of cows and stuff. He's like, go out in that pasture and pick every single mushroom you can find.
What?
And bring it back to me. Every single one of them. It doesn't matter what kind, what it looks like. He said, get them all. And we're like, oh shit, okay. So we grab our sack and we haul ass. And we
sounds like some kung fu old wisdom sort of guy. Like go do the wax on, wax off against the wall. And you're like, why? It's like, trust me.
Trust me.
That's exactly what that is. Oh. And one day I will conjure it out of my memory to paint a portrait of that moment of that old man in that wheelchair explaining to us how about the mushrooms, right? So we go out there, we get them. We get everything we could fucking find, man. We hunted mushrooms for 3.5, 4 hours. I mean, like, walked miles, and we brought him back a damn grocery sack full of mushrooms. so he's like, all right, well, you did good. You got plenty of mushrooms. And he's like, well, let's find out if you got any good ones. And he starts picking through that bag one at a time. He's like, nope. He's looking at it. That's not it. Nope. That's not it. That's not it. This went on for a while. He stops. And we're like trained on him. We're looking like, because he's not explaining anything. He's just saying yes and no. And we're like, what the fuck? This is not going as planned. So he stops and he looks at one and we're like, all right. And he's like, yep, that's it. And he throws it in his mouth and he eats it. And we're like, wait a minute. He's like, we were like, we didn't see it. We didn't see what it looked like. He's like, go get some more. Oh my God, man. He tortured us for like a long time. And then at the end of the day, he stopped and he explained everything. And that was a life-changing moment when I found out the information, because we proceeded to go and find them by the truckload. And it was just 3 of us, my brother, my best friend, and me, and we were experimenting. We started out with a very small amount, we just ate a few here and there, and later on, in about a week or two, we reached the pinnacle of the hero's dose, and I died several times over that night, and it forever changed the landscape that I see the world from. And I was 15 years old.
15! Holy crap, man. You created neurons that are now permanently in your brain forever.
Dude.
Like, yeah, 100%
I think that's what people are afraid of. It's that sentence, that final sentence you said, that it changed me and the way I view things forever. And I think people are incredibly terrified of taking that off ramp from their lives, you know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They don't want to lose that sense of identity. They want to be like, this is me. I know me. I'm happy with me in my box and who I am and what I do.
Yeah.
I don't want to suddenly go crazy and change who I am entirely. You know, my mom won't recognize me and shit like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's because of the information available nowadays. I didn't have the same access to information that people in the world have today. It was like, it was one of those true, I don't know what this is going to do moments, but I've heard the benefits of what it can do. And we were like really, really jumping off a cliff, as far as going for it. But I had nothing. I had no reflection. I had nothing to bounce this off of to even know, and nowadays
you didn't have any stigma attached to it.
Nothing, literally nothing, but a new experience.
So like I was telling this to like Christian and actually to you actually, Uncle Becky, but for us, most of the psychedelic mushrooms we've ever had the honor of consuming came from a plastic baggie. To be able to, from that young of an age, find your own fresh mushrooms, that is like such a surreal difference in conceptualization / understanding of this thing that you're doing.
There's also
I think it's amazing that you got to have that.
Purer, It is so much more beautiful in the way it's presented. Like if you're taking it out of a plastic bag, it's dried up and looks like crap, and you feel a bit skeevy, you're like you're like a guy on the streets, crazy eyes.
No,
if you find it in nature, you're like, Mama Gaia made this, yo.
Thank you.
Mama Gaia made this.
I did this experience before I left my hometown to see the world.
You were lucky.
And not like right before, like within a year or so, I would say. And then I went from that experience that I just described, all of it, to the Bay Area, California. And
that's a quick shift.
The shock. I can imagine the shock.
It was unreal. It was absolutely unreal, man.
It's just noise everywhere. Fucking machines.
Yeah.
People.
It was like, what in the world are these people doing?
Grinding.
Why are they moving so fast?
Grinding. They are grinding levels, yo. They gotta level up quick.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I told myself, believe it or not. I stood there and looked at this and I said, well, if I don't get to moving the same fucking speed, I'm going to get left behind.
Yeah.
And I literally went from being like a D- average, like didn't give a shit about school kind of kid, to graduating with a 4.0 and a full ride scholarship in one single year.
Bro,
dude.
No, that's
sick. Like I want to, just like the bias within me is like, yes, it was the mushrooms. Eating so many brain cells that
it was all of it.
Definitely. You're right.
Can you admit that there was this level of fear, of being obsolete?
Yes. Yeah, it was a big level of fear, but also the thing that growing up like I did instilled in me was a level of confidence that no one can ever take from me, because I have a set of skills that I can survive with nothing.
Like what I'm thinking as well, Uncle Becky, like you got such a genuine interaction of what like that freedom is, like as you said, like what that freedom looks like and what the divinity of each and every single person looks like as well. Because a lot of people give so much of their power away to others, dude. And then growing up in an environment where you don't see that happening is also a blessing.
A lot of the time they don't have the choice. They don't have the choice but to give away.
Out there, you're not required to, Your life is kind of left in your own hands, to where if you live out in rural areas, you can sit out there and waste away and nobody would ever know it. You know what I mean? Like you can isolate yourself to the point that it's dangerous. under certain
Lose grip of
circumstances and
realities.
certain individuals. Yeah, absolutely.
Look crazy to everyone else in the city.
Everyone else, and I see that happening to me in certain ways here right now in my current life.
Me too, Uncle Becky. Don't worry.
These interactions that I have with you guys are, man, it's a real treat. It's a real treat to.
Let me tell you, Uncle Becky. I think you got lucky in the sense that you're interacting with three of the most, some of the most outward-thinking maniacs in the city, if I can put it that way. We are not okay. We are not okay.
We are not
here.
okay, dude.
Well,
I promise you, none of us are sane.
Okay.
I think that's why we're quite all right with relating to you and understanding your stories and not thinking you're batshit crazy or anything like that. It's because I think everybody.
Wow.
I think it's because we are walking around the city with very much the same mentality as you. We're looking around, even as like the young people that we're looking around going like,
what the fuck, bro?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's testament to, it's not necessarily who you are. It's a certain energy. It's like a certain level of knowledge, a certain wormhole that certain people.
It's such a double-edged sword, Uncle Becky. It's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
So
it is.
Yo,
and so you kind of you have to try to like do what you can with it, right? You have to.
Yeah, not point it towards yourself, maybe.
Right.
It's something that's very interesting. You talk about the certain energy in that. Like something, Estian, I don't remember if we ever did actually talk about it on the podcast about the DMT levels for like visualization of reality. Chris, I don't know if you ever watched the thing Estian sent about the DMT. What is it? It's DMT.
Oh, like the DMT Quest.
Yeah,
the
DMT Quest. The
documentary.
DMT Quest.
Oh, that little.
Yeah, did you watch that? Bro.
No, I didn't watch it. He sent me the picture of it, I think, like the different levels.
So basically, this DMT Quest is just all of the information we have gathered up to this point about DMT.
It's no. What I'm gonna say is, I'm just gonna give you the facts of what we found. We have no idea what any of it does. Not a single fucking idea. All that we know is this: your brain produces in three places in your pineal gland, in your cortex, which is responsible for your like conscious thinking, and down at the base in your near your cerebellum. Yeah, those are the three where your highest probability of DMT is produced in your pineal gland, which is responsible for your visual interpretation of reality, and it can produce up to the same amount as dopamine and serotonin. So that means that DMT is an endogenous chemical that your brain naturally produces up to the level of your serotonin and dopamine. So what that implies, at least to me, is that DMT is a crucial aspect to how you view the world. If it's responsible... Go.
So like I'm just so excited about this because this is definitely my shotgun theory. I believe that depending on how much DMT your brain releases endogenously, that is going to determine how you look at the world and how much of the infinity you can see.
Witness,
because when you up that amount of DMT in your brain, that perception of infinity
just goes
opens up.
So
now we have it like
it's released naturally in moments of traumatic experience upon birth, maybe
in
upon
dreams.
Death.
It's up to 600% near death state. Well, your brain.
So there's then an interesting study on top of that, Uncle Becky. They found that when you take lysergic acid, your brain's DMT production goes up by 1,000%.
So it might not even be LSD or
It might not even be the LSD.
No, it might just be the LSD triggering it, and your brain goes, "Oh, cool, boof!" For the
we know
DMT.
how to produce DMT, and it's like
because if your DMT production it's near cerebellum, in your visual cortex, and in your your pineal gland, and your frontal, what I don't remember what you call this, the frontal lobe.
Prefrontal cortex.
Yeah. Now that prefrontal cortex is responsible for all your normal reasoning. Your pineal gland is responsible for your visual, and your back one is responsible for all your sensory from your body up to your brain. So now you can imagine if that DMT skyrockets, visual hallucinations, different thought patterns, different sensations to touch.
Yeah, feelings like you disconnect from your body /
You know
feeling like you melt
how
into things.
control
So much.
people want to be of themselves, at least, and the particular thought pattern that wants to stray away from the obsession of control, that I think is a uniqueness in human beings that is profoundly rare, because the amount of people that I know that I've met in this life that are like, I'm in charge of me.
Yeah.
I know what I want, and I know my goals in life, and I know everything there is to know about the way I act and the way I am in this.
You're boring, man.
And I'm like, bro, fuck.
What are you doing?
I don't even know if I want to eat or go to the bathroom. Like,
Yeah.
I have an internal turmoil and existential crises all in between of like, which do I want to do? I don't know. I'll go with the flow, whatever my body decides. And like,
Yeah.
other people are like, I go to the bathroom now.
Ooh.
Oh, cows!
This is Haywire
Dog!
Hill. So, like, this is some of the vibe you will get of the farm as well.
Uncle Becky.
So nice seeing you, Uncle Becky. Now
to
they
see
can
your
like know
face.
what you look like as well.
Hi, Uncle
Uncle Becky
Becky.
is like beard goals,
Ew,
like vine
beard
masculine
goals.
goals.
I need to
try.
You're such a role model to me, Uncle Becky. Can I just tell you, I love you so much, man.
I love you too, Melt. This is Dumple. And, this is Alex.
Buddies.
And these are the cows.
Oh.
And the couple
It's
of the goats.
gorgeous
There's my
there.
that's my mascot here at Haywire Hill. That's
The Billy
Psychedelic
Goat.
Billy.
What?
So
See?
all of my merch is hand designed by me, and it's all modeled after Psychedelic Billy here.
It's like
Yeah, well, actually,
He's amazing. It's
look
gorgeous.
look at him. Just looking at you as well. It's like what you.
He's like a movie
is,
star with those fans in the background. That's amazing.
Yeah, so,
See, you're literally living in paradise. This is what we all strive for.
is like
This is
full
literally this is what we all strive for in life, Uncle Becky. And I hear it from so many of the older people. Flipping almost everybody I meet that has lived their career lives, working in the office, working the hours, doing the daily grind. All of them have said to me, I just want a fucking cabin in the woods somewhere and to be left alone
all of
in
them.
nature. Almost all of them.
Yes.
Almost all of them.
Absolutely.
And that's the thing. This is what we strive for. This is what we aim for.
Like,
But
crazy you say that as well.
unfortunately, there's like a societal expectation placed upon, especially like the younger people. Do you know what I mean? They're told, the millennials have been told, we have to save the planet because everything is fucked now. And we can't run away to a farm to live our own lives, to just be our ace and look after ourselves. No, we have to take on the huge weight and responsibility of the previous generations, and we gotta fix this shit before it goes to hell,
Like one thing
I agree,
to add
I agree.
about that actually, Christian, like Uncle Becky actually does have a plan to create some cabins on Haywire Hill to be able to provide that for someone. Like you might not be able to do it indefinitely right now, but if you can do it for a weekend, that is already something that you can give to people.
Yeah, it's gonna be a cool experiment because what I'm doing is almost coming around full circle back to all of the values that I held dear as a child. I was able to find my way back to that place, even though I threw myself into the world full of experience, and how many times I try to think how many times I could have easily got caught on a different path like split-second decisions.
Yeah, literally split-second
delayed
decisions.
this. You know, it might not have altered it, but it definitely could have delayed this from happening when it did. I'm 37 years old. I've found a way to kind of explore this passion here on this property and make a living locally here, because work, a good wage here it's kind of difficult to find, but through all my travels, I've made it a point to make myself a highly skilled individual who I'm not scared of a job. I'm not job scared is what I'm saying. It doesn't matter. I will find a way. And that's allowed me to explore this passion. I mean, and I think that it's that kind of mentality that the younger generation needs to know, that they all absolutely also have the power.
They are capable.
They are fully capable. For anyone to tell me that they're not capable of doing something is unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable unless there is some really obvious reasons why they can't do something,
Like a physical disability or something like that.
Yeah, like a disability.
Then even that, like I saw a video today of a dude with no arms, no legs, doing ollies on a skateboard. Like,
Right.
like I mean, like just that. Like I see myself saying in that way, Uncle Becky, like, oh, I can't skateboard, and then you think about something like that, like, oh yes, you can, and you can do so much more.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I think
and people need to know that. People need to be lifted and empowered in a world that is steadily trying to chop them down. And the pandemic was so beautiful for that.
Yeah.
And the timing of our pan and when it happened, I was like, for me to start this broadcast at the beginning of the pandemic and not knowing what it was going to be, it was strictly out of my my selfish wanting a hobby, like I just wanted to stream, and I knew that I had the ingredients to break the internet essentially if I needed to or if I wanted to, and so I started accumulating these baby goats, baby kittens, puppies, like all of these things that the internet goes apeshit about. I was like, well, fuck it. I'll put them all in one place, and I'll never have to worry about content, and it's happening. I'm living proof that it can happen, and I did it all on a damn cell phone. The cell phone I'm on right
just
now.
Just a cell phone, dude.
I don't even have internet. I don't even have a proper PC until last week.
No, I think
Uncle Becky and it's impressive. So, like, to you friends who don't know, like, Uncle Becky is, like, I think I can say this with some confidence. Uncle Becky is the biggest RPAN streamer at the moment. Like, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna stay that way as well, because Uncle Becky is the home of wholesome, dude. Like, whenever you're tuning into an Uncle Becky stream, there's like automatic tranquil music playing in your head, or Uncle Becky's music, depending on if it's Aunt B or Uncle Becky streaming. And then like Aunt B does these super chill, sometimes foggy morning streams where you just have the colors and this gentle voice that is Aunt B, Uncle Becky's wife. And then if it's Uncle Becky, like, he's usually working, dude. Like, he's never standing still, always moving around.
I honestly, I've come to believe, isn't that like the key to happiness? Is to just keep doing things, not like regress,
Never stop.
Never stop.
or like melt down
Yes,
into
mama?
a position of boredom, or
Bezig met the podcast.
and
Because it's kind of it starts to take on these toxic traits, when you sit still. Water that sits still becomes stagnant.
yeah.
And nobody wants stagnant water. People like a nice, clean, free flowing water. And
that
it's life is what you make it.
Yeah.
It's what you make it.
Yeah, and that's the important thing, at least, is for people to remember that never standing still doesn't mean you can't relax. You can still do things slowly. It just means never ever stop doing things, because when like you said, stagnation is a problem.
Yeah,
Actually, it makes me think.
And
No, please, Uncle Becky.
No, go ahead. I've been talking a lot. Go
I
ahead.
was thinking today about what structure of thinking, if you can at all set a structure of thinking for how you're supposed to be processing things. And I was like, do I want to try and set a structure to my own thinking? And then one of the friends that tuned in, Yader, actually said something about calm. Calm is the best structure of thinking that you can give yourself, because when you find yourself in a space where you get flustered or you don't get things out, taking a breath, calming down, and then trying to talk from there, that's like literally the best way. So in that calm, you can still be
Magic.
articulate. Yeah, it really is.
I've always been an advocate for the opposite argument and a sort of chaotic nature in these discussions. I'd like to say that I sometimes wonder if it is possible to set yourself a structure of thinking. That the human mind is so, it's such
Chaotic.
No, but Chris,
it's such a difficult thing.
You know?
It's a difficult thing to master your own thought processes. Sometimes they just go haywire. Sometimes they just take a different route. Sometimes they get tired of the same, like you said, structure that you set for yourself. It's maddening.
Yeah, it is maddening, and it's a lot to. The calm nature is the one that I identify with, and I have overcome a lot of challenges and direct issues with situations through calmness. But I think over time, you'll see your life shaping up in certain ways based on how you deal with interactions. Sometimes you might have an interaction with someone or some situation or something that is driving you to the way of negative energy, right? And you can make poor decisions when you're flustered. Some people have the ability to use that as fuel to make good direct decisions, right? So like you said, you identify with the opposite of that. And I've seen people with traits of very active thinkers that, have high energy levels, possibly even aggression sometimes, and they're able to navigate through the world, with no problem. It may look very selfish from the outside looking in. If you're looking at this person, you may think, oh, well, they're successful. Yes, they're getting what they want out of life, but you don't see many people standing in their circle. So then you have the opposite of that, of somebody who's a relaxed thinker that just kind of lets things flow by, maybe doesn't act on every decision immediately. We're all built different. We're all so different from one another. I think I heard something one time that each person on this planet, the differences between each individual human are greater than the differences between human and ape.
I can actually see that. Yeah.
We are.
Yeah, 100%.
That's amazing.
Also,
So-
something that's really funny is you're only like 3 or 4% human cells. The rest of it is bacteria and viruses and different things in your body that's supposed to be there for you to be healthy.
Mm-hmm. So there has to be a higher grid to this thing, right? Because we've talked about so many different aspects and outlooks on what all we're talking about here, but we're all obviously able to sit down and have this podcast and make it happen, right? So we're obviously
Synchronizing in
the
some
same
sense.
circles. Yeah, we are synchronizing in some type of way. Even though I just met y'all, I can sit here and talk to you guys like we've known each other for a long time, and it feels that way. I feel
'Cause we do.
calm.
There's
I feel
the
calm in this moment.
Here comes the spiritual energy.
Intimate things. Yeah. And I want
See,
to
that's-
thank y'all for inviting me on this podcast, because I've never sat and done a podcast.
They're
I
really
thought Uncle
fun.
Nick first
You have
podcast.
been like a professional by, I believe, most people's standards, man. Like, I think
Absolutely.
we're so equipped and so like, I think, as you said, synchronized to do these things. We are living in an age, and just knowing the scale of our universe, how unlikely we are likely to be, and then on top of that, how unlikely it is for us, some of us from Bulgaria, some of us from South Africa, some of us from America, to be able to come together in a space like this and resonate on the same ideas.
Dude,
It is.
I think
It
what
is
something that
wild.
I've realized is people don't give themselves nearly enough credit.
I
Like we
know, right?
said, your capability to do things, if you trust in yourself and how you can communicate, it's insane.
It's from an incredibly toxic system that has forced structure into the human existence, and this is why we feel inadequate in so many scenarios and have come to cripple
Mm,
ourselves.
And feeling inadequate
yes.
causes us to buy things as well because we try
Yeah.
and like
Uh-huh.
plug that
Oh yeah.
inadequacy.
I felt inadequate enough. Now I'm gonna spoil myself and buy myself something
Yes.
useless.
I used to have that problem severely.
I still do. I'm
I
currently
think
going through it.
And now, I haven't bought any new clothes in like 10 years, it seems like.
yeah, stick it to the man. Like I'm also on that
It's
train now again, Uncle Becky. Like that black fox jacket that I wear dancing, it comes from like grade 8. So since
yeah,
2014, I've been
This
wearing that jacket.
this jacket, grade 10,
yeah.
man. Same thing.
Let
So
it come
yeah,
with
so
us.
obviously we identify on the same levels on me.
I hate having to buy. It was such a horrible transition for me, and I think we're gonna end it off soon. I'm gonna babble on a little bit. It was a terrible transition for me going from the university lifestyle into the sort of work environment and an office lifestyle, because I realized now I have to change my clothes just to
People are looking at
yes,
me.
just to like
yes.
fit into this new circle. That's fucking ridiculous. That's so crazy.
I
You know?
to conform, I mean,
Yeah,
and
because otherwise
that's a huge
everybody in the
pet
office
peeve
is
of
gonna look
mine.
at you and be like, "Who's this bum? He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't take his life seriously. He doesn't take his job seriously. He's not gonna get anywhere." I'm like, I just want to
Yeah,
wear some fucking sweatpants because they're comfy.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like you're a
exactly.
programmer as well, dude. That's the best part about it. So like, what do they want from you, dude? Like
No,
you're supposed to be
luckily,
comfortable.
currently in my newest job, that is far less corporate. The people are a lot more human, and they treat you like a human. You're not a number. Wear whatever you want.
Yeah.
Have a beer during work hours, for God's sake. It's not a crime.
On that note, Uncle Becky, like your new work, man, how has that been, dude? Moving heavy things.
It's
Like you're
exactly
basically week
so
2 of your new job now.
I'm week 2 of my new job, and I have done 2 things that have been the first time they've been done in history.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you wanna end it off with that, Uncle Becky? Do tell us this story.
So, what you just said, you were talking about conforming and corporate versus the relaxed work environment, and I've really been trying to kind of set myself apart in my field and my industry and learn ways to navigate with that skill set. And I completely got away from it. As you know, Melt, I went and learned machine learning and automation and instrumentation for the last year. And that was something that I had no clue about, but it was a job that I was able to get. And I went and spent a whole year learning everything there was to know about CNC routers and G code. Okay. And I was like so thankful that I had that in my belt. And because I'm going to use it, I'm going to be able to utilize it in all the things I want to do moving forward. So I was not looking to leave my job, and I wasn't satisfied with my pay, but I was satisfied with all of the access that I had to things that I wanted, like being able to take my own lumber up there and cut whatever CNC art I wanted to. Like at any given
really
time,
cool.
like full access to the facility. Anything I wanted to do in there, I could have done. I didn't want to leave that because I had a lot of ideas and things I wanted to explore with that. So my brother calls and he's like, "Hey man, I got a job for you to consider," and and we talked about it and whatnot. And I just said, screw it. You know, the money was good, and I decided just to jump off that cliff and you know, kind of lean on my own understanding and my own path. And it was super non-corporate. I have a lot of freedom there to express myself, a lot of professional freedom as well, as far as you know, job planning on how things are going to get done, and this and that. And it literally came from nowhere. I wasn't even looking for it, and it was a huge testament. And this is a good thing to close out on. So it was a huge testament to doing good work, right? So obviously, sometime in my past, I had done some good work that somebody noticed and went looking for the guy that did it. And my father had always taught me, so in the construction industry, a welder, there's so many of them, when they make a weld, that's all you're seeing is the actual weld seam. You know what I mean? You're not seeing the person. And so they were all required to put a stamp, like a hard metal stamp with a hammer, right beside their weld. And that way, when an inspector came through, they would know who was responsible for that weld, right? In case it was bad, or maybe if it was good, they could, you know, use it as contrast for maybe a bad one. But anyways, he used that analogy, and he said, whatever you do in this world, son, he said, you need to take pride in your craftsmanship. You need to take pride in the work you leave behind. He said, be able to put your stamp on it and not worry about it. Be able to walk away from that stamp knowing that somebody's going to come find you one day because of how good that work was left. And I operated on that understanding. And also a teacher from my time when I was in California told me the only two things that you can truly control in this world are your attitude and your effort. So I took that, like, that hit me deep, and I rolled on out with those two things. And here I am, happy. I'm fulfilled right now. I feel blessed to stand in these shoes, you know.
Hell yeah.
Uncle Becky, what a beautiful message to leave it off on, man. Leave your stamp.
Becky.
Put in some effort.
I thoroughly enjoyed
Your attitude and your effort.
Thank you so much, man. This was a lot of fun. Like, I would love to have you on again. That hour passed like it was nothing.
Yeah, that was
and
really
quick.
quick.
I know I talked a lot. I know.
No, it was. This is why we have guests, Uncle Becky.
It's
Us three are
about you,
constantly
Uncle
talking. Today was your day.
Yeah.
Well, that makes me feel more comfortable because I didn't know the structure of this podcast. I was just talking.
We don't have any structure whatsoever. Uncle Becky, we're genuinely a bunch of friends,
and we never had flow.
Yeah.
You being able to give us your experience is literally what it's all about, Uncle Becky. This has been a really blessed experience.
Thank you so much.
You too as well.
I hope that my words provide you some questions to think on and maybe reflect on, and we will have this conversation again. And maybe if there's anything that y'all would like me to explore on or think about, just we're friends now. We done did the podcast, so
there's always three things that I would impart on people that I've just freshly met and might never speak to again.
Wow.
You could take it. It's always a possibility. I don't rule that out. And that's why I take these opportunities to say this from my side, is if there's anything that I could leave behind for you, it would be love, light, and peace. Love, light, and peace, and go out in the world like that.
My light buddies, thank you so much. Like every single time I get to talk to any single one of you, I always feel uplifted, and I appreciate you so much for that. Every single one of you. Thank you. Thank you, friends, for watching as well today. We appreciate
Uncle
you.
so
Becky.
much, Uncle Becky.
I enjoy this one a
Much
lot.
love.
Yeah,
Thank
take
y'all
care.
so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.